Welcome everyone to Game 2 of our TNT NBA doubleheader tonight. It's all presented by the United States Marine Corps on a beautiful night at the Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles. The number 1 seeded San Antonio Spurs in the West take on the Los Angeles Lakers at number 3. With a lot of interesting storylines in tonight's game. Hi everyone, Kevin Harlan along with Steve Kerr, Reggie Miller. Cheryl Miller is on our sideline. Let's take a look first of all, Reg, at the Western Conference and where these teams stand and what they got to play for the rest of the way.
Well, really the Lakers control their own destiny. Win tonight, win tomorrow in Sacramento, and they leapfrog Dallas and they take that number 2 seed.
And for San Antonio, this is one of those classic dilemmas for Greg Popovich. You know, coaches in every sport go through this. What do? Do you play your guys? Do you sit them? You want them to be in good shape and good form for the playoffs, but nothing really at stake for the Spurs. So Popovich is going to elect to sit his main 3 guys, Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan. And
so the only regular starter to start will be Richard Jefferson. You can see the rest with Splitter, the kid from Europe, and Blair, Neal, and Hill in the backcourt. With the Los Angeles Lakers, their starting 5 is intact. This means a lot for Los Angeles. Reggie just walked us through what they've got. Sacramento is tomorrow night. If they win both games, they'll be number 2. How much are teams, I guess the Lakers in particular, as a 2-time defending champion, thinking about who they're going to play the first round and mapping out where they may go in the second round?
Well, if you're a veteran team, which both of these teams are, obviously you've seen a lot of these playoff wars. But for the Lakers, they need to get on some type of roll with only 2 games left. Now they've lost their last 5 games, and it hasn't been in great fashion, Steve. Yeah. So they got to find a way to kind of curb this losing appetite.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're trying to do 2 things here tonight and tomorrow night. They're trying to establish that 2 seed, but more importantly, they're trying to establish that rhythm and have some kind of a flow when the playoffs start this weekend.
And for second stringers like we see out there predominantly for the San Antonio Spurs, I mean, they look at this as a chance to see some quality minutes.
Yeah, and this is a very deep team, one of the deepest in the NBA, and Derek Fisher misses on the floater. So Greg Popovich feels like his team can compete out here.
This is Gary Neal, who has been shooting well of late. As Neal, he is the only major addition to this team aside from Splitter in the offseason for San Antonio.
Well, it was real interesting listening to Greg Popovich when he talked about Thiago Splitter was going to be his starting center tonight. This is a guy that really hasn't played up to expectations. He's been hurt and injured a lot. But this is a guy that can bang him with the best of them. He's physical, he can rebound, and he sets great screens.
This is Bynum working on Splitter and out of bounds. Lakers have lost 5 consecutive games, 3 consecutive games at home, and the heels of winning 17 of 18 games when they look to be in such great shape. Things have kind of fallen apart here late in the regular year. And Kobe Bryant with a 3.
Phil Jackson, after the Oklahoma City game the other night, said we did play better. You know, we showed signs, and I think yesterday at practice he said the ailing patient is starting to recover. Even though they didn't get the win, you know, they looked much better. They just didn't finish the game well the last 3 minutes.
They lost Oklahoma City here by 14 points. San Antonio with Splitter diving inside on Gasol. San Antonio Spurs beat Utah by 9 on Saturday.
Well, something that surfaced, Steve, in that fourth quarter was the turnovers. They had 4 turnovers through 3 quarters and then 9 in that fourth period against the Thunder. During this losing streak, they had been averaging 18 turnovers. This is the team, the Lakers, coming into this season, had only turned it over 13 times.
Inside to Splitter, rejected by Bynum and picked up by Fisher. They come the other way as Fisher goes right into here, picked up by Jefferson.
About the early aggressiveness of Derek Fisher. Second time he's taken the ball into the lane against that tall front line for San Antonio.
That's Neal hitting right over Kobe Bryant. This Laker losing streak is the longest since the 07 season, so the longest in 4 years. As the whistle is blown and 2 minutes into this first quarter here in Los Angeles. A look at Phil Jackson. He's got his team at 55 wins. He said one of the goals of this team this season is to better last year's winning streak. And win totals, Jefferson picks up his first. They had 57 wins a season ago. They got to win 2 in a row here just to get to 57.
You know, and you mentioned the 5-game losing streak. It should be noted that none of the championship teams here in the Kobe Bryant era has ever lost 5 in a row.
And Bryant missing a 3 in the first time that Gasol, since he's been a Laker, Neal's going to go the other way with ease and find 2. First time since Gasol has been a Laker, they've lost 5 in a row.
Well, something's got to give too, because there's no team when Phil Jackson's scoring for a three-peat has ever lost as well.
True.
So
we can spin the numbers however we want, right?
Something's got to give, gentlemen.
Gasol with the screen for Kobe. Jefferson has the rebound.
I think what's most interesting about this Laker team, though, is the dominance that they've shown at times. I mean, they won 17 out of 18 right out of the break. The All-Star break, and it looked like they were going to really roll. But then all of a sudden they lose 5 in a row. So they just haven't been able to really put together the consistency that we've seen from them in the past.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, Steve. The fear factor is somewhat gone, because you had Oklahoma City, who hadn't won in this building in a number of years, 11 straight tries. They've lost when they come in here, and then they get a big victory. Yeah. You know, Kendrick Perkins, John back and forth with Powell. And, you know, I think teams are starting to feel that they match up well with the Lakers. And at the start of the season, I never thought that, especially with the size and the experience. They're well coached.
Some of that invincibility is gone, because you're right, when they win 17 of 18 out of the break, you think, you know, they come to within a game and a half of San Antonio.
Yeah, but then look at the numbers. They've averaged only 91 points per game in the last 5. And that goes to what Phil Jackson talked about yesterday. He said they've lost their sense of urgency as Kobe Bryant gets fouled going to the hoop. And he said because they lost their sense of urgency, they lost their crispness. And once you lose that crisp offensive execution, you start to turn the ball over, as you mentioned, Reggie.
Neil picked up his first. Derek Fisher, Reg, said that, you know, we began to look ahead. Maybe we began to look ahead too much.
Well, I like what Kobe Bryant, after that very difficult loss at home against the Thunder, didn't want to be around his teammates. Now, you play with Michael Jordan, who was notorious for going off on players and coaches and so forth. Didn't want to be around the players in the locker room. Went into the training room. He didn't want to, as he said, redecorate the locker room. So it shows you the mindset of the two-time defending champions and the sense of urgency in this game tonight.
Well, that's what drives Kobe. It's what drove Michael. I mean, they wanted to win every game, every shooting drill, anything competitive. Those guys wanted to win.
Poor shooting by both teams, including the Lakers, who are 1 of 8, 3 of 8 shooting for the Spurs. Kobe has hit his second consecutive shot. Kobe's coming off a 31-point performance in the loss to the Thunder on Sunday here. Spurs have won 4 consecutive games on the heels of losing 6 in a row. Splitter with a screen. Missed by Jefferson. Gasol's got the ball.
Yeah, they went through their own struggles. And for the Spurs, it's been a largely healthy season. But they finally got hit with the injury bug a couple of weeks ago. It really cost them. And they started to struggle as Gasol makes that 17-footer. But fortunately for San Antonio, they've bounced back here, played extremely well here the last week, and I think they feel pretty good about themselves going into the playoffs.
And with that great San Antonio start, they've been the top team in the Western Conference the entire season.
Well, it was interesting listening to Popovich. He said, look, if we were playing Phoenix today and the Lakers tomorrow, I would have done the same thing. I would have rested them against Phoenix and gone strong against the Lakers. So it doesn't matter who he said, during our losing streak, I sat these guys down.
Kobe's 2 of 5. Here come the Spurs. They've missed 5 consecutive shots. It's Splitter off a 13-point performance Saturday against Utah. To Gasol.
You get a chance to see Splitter, and you can see what kind of player he is. He's not real skilled down on the block. He's not going to score in the post, but he's very mobile and defensively covers a lot of ground and covers the basket with that length, although Gasol gets by him there.
He had 26 against Oklahoma City. It goes across the lane, leading a 7-0 run for the Lakers. Kobe with an assist here, and Gasol answers.
Now Kobe Bryant finding the open man. Gasol knocking down the jumper, and then he follows it up with the strong move to the hole. Lakers up 5 early.
Kobe's got 7 early points. In the East, everything is set. In the West, it's the race for the number 2 position.
Well, really, we talked about the Lakers. They control their own destiny to get to that number 2 seed by winning out. But to me, there's really hasn't been any jockeying going on. Everyone thought it was going to be that 6th, 7th, 8th position between Portland, New Orleans, and Memphis. But really, 2, 3, 4, because it seems like everyone is trying to get aligned to play Dallas.
Yeah.
And I want to know why.
Well, I guess because the alternative is to play the Lakers or the Spurs. Dallas has struggled a little bit of late, but you know, I think if you're at the top, if you're a 1 or a 2 seed, you can't exactly try to map out who you're going to play. You shouldn't be worried about who you're going to play in the first round.
Here is Neal, and Jefferson coming off a 20-point game, hits the 3. When Jefferson got 20 over the weekend, it was his first 20-point game since November 10th.
And I think what he's done better this year, because he's had a much better season than he did a year ago, is just what he showed there. And that's what Popovich worked with him on all summer. Catch and shoot, because in the past he's been kind of a catch and hold type guy, and you can't do that in the San Antonio offense.
Yeah, they don't want him holding the ball.
Well, that's part of this whole new offense for San Antonio. It's almost more of that European as Kobe Bryant gets that 15-footer to go. Really, it's catch and drive. There's not a lot of holding. They're not playing inside out like they used to with Tim Duncan. It's more guard-oriented with Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and Richard Jefferson.
Jefferson with the triple. Rebound by Bynum. Matt Bonner is checked in for DeJuan Blair. That was their only change coming out of the last break. And 5.5 to play here in the first. Here is Gasol. And Fisher. Derek Fisher, the active leading consecutive game player right now in the NBA. Tonight, 494 consecutive games.
Well, and as usual, he's had kind of an average regular season, but he's getting ready to put the cape on and become Superman in the playoffs. I think he's being aggressive tonight early to get that shooting rhythm to go.
Hill hits right there over the last 8 games. He has been scoring well. Reg, you look at a lot of these backups for San Antonio. A lot of these guys can start on teams in the NBA.
And George Hill has. He started a lot of games for this Spurs team. And one thing Popovich says, he trusts his bench a lot, especially with Gary Neal and George Hill. When I talked about, what is going to be his playoff rotation, he says Hill, Neal, and maybe Bonner, and that's it.
Hill picks up his first. Under 5 to play here in the first quarter. Ron Artest will be at the free throw line, and his numbers have been better since the break. And here's a look at the upcoming national TV schedule. ESPN tomorrow. Some meaningful games, we think. New Orleans at Dallas, Memphis at the Clippers, ABC on Saturday, and NBA TV on Tuesday. Playoff coverage begins. And for TNT, playoff coverage starts on Sunday. It's 5-point Laker lead. They've lost 5 straight coming into tonight as we've got a substitution. Lamar Odom comes in. Odom has had a terrific season for this Laker team.
Maybe his best season ever.
Yeah.
You look at the numbers, averaging about 14 points, shooting 40% from the three-point line, and I think 53 overall from the field. His best shooting numbers that he's ever had, and what makes him so good, obviously, is the versatility at both ends of the floor.
Well, he's scored more points, especially in his younger career, but you're right, the efficiency that he's shown, and you're right, the versatility he can do, especially on the defensive end.
James Anderson just checked in, finds Splitter inside. The Brazilian can't get it. Here comes Odom the other way. Lamar Odom with numbers expanded in every significant offensive category for him. Here is our test with a little spin move inside. Hill got him first. Bonner got him second. With 4:14 to play here in the first quarter. Looks like Hill has picked up his second personal foul.
It'll be interesting to see if Lamar Odom is really considered for the Sixth Man of the Year award, because all the injuries to Bynum, he spent about half the season starting, and then he comes off the bench. I think if it were a consistent thing where he came off the bench all year, he'd be my runaway choice for Sixth Man.
Well, his numbers aren't there to be Sixth Man?
No, I'm just saying I think he started too many games possibly for people to actually vote for him. I don't know if people are going to consider him.
I think they are going to consider him.
Are they?
Yeah.
All right.
Chris.
Then he wins.
You don't have a vote?
I don't have a vote. If I had one.
Well, we got the studio show. They'll be giving out some awards at halftime. They just changed the foul. That was our delay right there. They put it on Bonner, and they take it away from Hill.
And for the record, guys, Odom has started 34 of the 80 games. So I don't know that there's a certain number that people have to use. But let's call him a bench player. Let's call him the Sixth Man of the Year. Is it unanimous?
Yes,
all right.
He's my pick.
Bynum comes up with his third rebound. And here comes Odom, and picked up by Bonner.
Kobe really wants to post up James Anderson.
He's the difference to me.
Bynum. Well, and he's healthy this
Yes.
year going into the playoffs, which is huge. In fact, one of the things that Kobe talked about as George Hill steps on the line. He was asked about last year when the Lakers lost, I think 6 of their last 9 going into the playoffs. He said, what's the difference between last year and this year? He said, well, last year we were all injured. We didn't really know what to expect. This year, this is more about execution. I mean, we're relatively healthy, at least the starting lineup. And it's more about correctable things that we can do in practice.
Odom missing a three. Picked up by Anderson. He was a rookie out of Oklahoma State. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year a season ago. Hill takes it inside, and he'll be fouled with 3:20 to play in the first quarter. Lakers have led by as many as 10. Spurs had an early lead of 3. Foul goes on Ron Artest for the first time, and this will put Hill at the free throw line for San Antonio.
You know, everyone, especially around, Laker Town, is wondering what is wrong with the Lakers, Steve. And to me, you played on so many championship teams, and when you've had the best players and so forth, I think when you get to a certain point, you get a little bored with the regular season. You're focused on the big prize, and the big prize is winning a championship and having your health. And I think that's what Phil Jackson and Kobe and the rest of these veteran players are really thinking about, is the bigger prize, which is winning a championship.
Yeah. Think back to the Rockets team I think it was 95 when they were the 5th seed. They were coming off a championship. Hakeem Olajuwon and Kenny Smith and that whole gang.
Right.
And they were, and Robert Horry and Vernon Maxwell. They were really not a very good team in the regular season, but they were just waiting. They were waiting for the playoffs, and sure enough, they turned it on and won the title. But it's not that easy to flip the switch.
Bynum's got 4. Shannon Brown has just checked in for Kobe Bryant. Under 3 to play here in the first. Spurs 5 of 16 shooting so far. Here is Hill. Anderson kicks it out to Jefferson, who is hit by Artest, and Artest will pick up a foul with 2:45 to play. Ron picks up his second personal foul.
Well, Andrew Bynum getting going here for the Lakers with a couple of buckets in a row. Look at the catch and the finish off the Derek Fisher pass, and then the post up right in front of the rim using that great length.
No turnovers yet for the Lakers, and turnovers have Lakers by 10. Kobe Bryant's got 9. Let's swing it over to our version of Kobe Bryant and our broadcast crew, Cheryl Dean Miller. Cheryl, take it away.
Kevin, I like that.
Well,
before the game, I was able to catch up with Derek Fisher and ask him to sum up the 5-game skid. And he said, Cheryl, basically it started as one bad loss that led into 4 other losses. He said typically that only happens to young teams, but he feels that the team has done a good job of keeping things into perspective, understanding that it is an 82-game schedule, and there's going to be some ups and downs. Guys, even Kobe Bryant said there's no doom and gloom. This team's issues are all correctable.
Thank you, Cheryl. Here is Walton now in the game taking the place of Bynum. Kobe also said we played horrible defense. Reg just talked about the turnovers. There are a lot of little issues here they want to get ironed out.
Yeah, for sure, and I think they will. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last year with Blair getting that hook to go. They went into the playoffs in a similar mode last year. Remember how much they struggled in that first-round series against Oklahoma City, but eventually they ironed it out and they got it going.
Reg, the difference was Kobe missed 4 of 5. They were injured. This year they're healthy and they're playing good.
And Bynum missed the last 13 of those games as well. This is a team that's fully healthy, and they have a 5-game slide, and the bench has not played particularly well. There's going to be no Blake tonight because of chicken pox. Barnes has the knee situation. So it'll be interesting. Shannon Brown has not played great off the bench for the Lakers.
I think they're as vulnerable as they've ever been, because of those reasons we talked about. Their transition defense has been poor. Their perimeter defense has struggled as well.
Danny Green is in for the first time, and they're going to call him with an offensive foul as he goes right into Fisher. It shows some of that Laker toughness. Green out of North Carolina. All bench players tonight again for San Antonio. For the most part, players playing, and of course we see some play by Jefferson as the starter.
That's really Anderson's fault. It's not Green's fault. Anderson put him in that position. He's got to make Fisher commit to him with the ball rather than passing immediately to the trailing Danny Green.
Now what's frustrating about that play, Steve, is you were taught that in AAU basketball. On a 2-on-1, make the lone defender guard you.
Actually, it was John Wooden basketball camp.
For us,
I don't think they teach that in AAU basketball.
You're right.
Blair losing the ball. That's the 3rd San Antonio turnover. Brown the other way. He has been struggling, and he is called with the offensive foul. What has happened to Shannon Brown, who was so effective earlier in the year?
Well, we asked Phil Jackson that earlier. He said he's gotten himself in a rush, and he just feels like he's gotten out of sorts a little bit. And they're trying to take some of the ball handling responsibilities away from him and just tell him, do what you do, get to the rim and score.
And they've got a pretty good book, opponents do, on how he plays.
Well, it's funny, Phil Jackson also said he's thinking too much. And when you're out there and you're not reacting, you're more so thinking the game of basketball, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult. He just needs to go. He's so athletic. He just needs to play.
Chris
Things will
Quinn.
come his way.
Chris Quinn is in. Gasol moving inside on Blair. Under a minute to play here in the first quarter. Lakers have shot 40% from the floor, 31% shooting by mainly San Antonio reserves. Blair picks up his first personal. Here is Gasol at the free throw line, averaging 19 points and 10 rebounds. TBS weeknights. Experts recommend that you Conan 4 out of 5 nights a week. I say, why not 5 out of 5? But they're only saying 4 out of 5.
It's like dentists, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Dentine.
Yeah. Steve, they're not a sponsor.
Oh, sorry.
Watch new episodes of Conan. Weeknights at 11:10 Central, only on TV.
Oh, we're going to be getting phone calls now.
He's not on Fridays. That's why it's only 4 out of the 5.
If you paid attention to Conan, you would have probably known that.
Maybe if you two paid attention to me trying to set you up and say, hey, Kevin, I'm trying to make you look good. That's called throwing up the,
there you go. You're right.
Slow shot, right? Lakers do have a foul to give in the final 40 seconds here. Bonner set the screen, switch on D. Anderson over Odom. Fisher. You're right about Fisher, Steve. This is the time of year that he really begins to percolate.
Oh, boy. You better believe it.
Walton. Blair.
Mr. Phil Jackson, you've got to be encouraged with this first quarter. You held the Spurs right now to 15 points. You scored 24 yourself. Your defense has been pretty good.
Of course, about 50 of those points are on the bench for the Spurs tonight.
Yes.
But still, I mean, you take it.
Danny Green at 3. Gasol. Nope, not enough time. So mainly reserves for the San Antonio Spurs tonight. The big 3 taking a breather. They will play tomorrow in Phoenix. Regular season winding down. The 2-time defending champion Lakers. The 3-time Western Conference defending champion Lakers. Leading after 1 on TNT.
Welcome back to Los Angeles. It's now time for the Forwards Coach's Corner, and joining me is Greg Popovich and Coach. Looking at that first quarter, you're without 4 of your main guys. Are you encouraged by the way you guys have played?
I think we're down 9, aren't we? But I think
it could be worse.
We've had some good shots. We have some good shots. So they didn't go in, and I think if a couple went in, it'd be a little bit closer. But we're playing pretty well.
As far as Richard Jefferson is concerned, is he at the level where you would like heading into the playoffs?
I think he's been playing much better this last 2 or 3 weeks. He's been more aggressive with the basketball, and he's rebounded for us, and we need him to do both.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Starting the second quarter, Kobe with 9, leading all. He's back in the game. That's a good-looking shot outside by the guy that won a national championship with North Carolina, Danny Green. You don't hear much about him now, but he is getting his playoff legs ready. I don't know how much these guys are going to play in the playoff. He's out there with Quinn and Bonner.
None is the answer.
None. Thank you very much. That's why I was setting you guys up there. Anderson outside. Here's Lamar Odom. He will play quite a bit. Quinn gets the loose ball. Lakers have missed 5 consecutive shots.
Well, you heard Greg Popovich. A nice catch there by Blair on the alley-oop. Richard Jefferson, his line already 1 of 5, only 3 points. And to me, Steve, the Spurs are going to need that consistent third scorer come playoff time. You can count on Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker and even Tim Duncan, but really Richard Jefferson's going to have to be that guy come playoff time.
Phil Jackson didn't like that shot selection by Odom. Popovich loved the catch and subsequent 2 by Blair inside in a 5-point game here in L.A. Or go home. Here, Kobe Bryant leading all scorers with 9. Subs basically playing for the Spurs tonight. Starters tomorrow. Odom works it on Bonner. Bynum can't find it. Chris Quinn comes up with it. If the Lakers win tonight and win tomorrow in Sacramento, they will be assured of the #2 position in the Western Conference, as Kobe Bryant will take it the other way.
And you know, tomorrow's game will not be easy. That's the last game ever, more than likely, at
in Arco.
the old Arco Arena.
A lot of emotions up there, and you're wondering, there's you know, a number of things that can happen. People will stay away because they're upset that maybe the Kings are leaving, or because of the love affair that they've had with the Kings. It's going to be one of those crazy, you know, Vlade Divac, you know, Chris Webber type crowds there.
That was a huge rivalry there for several years. You look at the brackets, and I think what's most likely to happen is the bottom 2 will be swapped. I would expect the Lakers and Dallas to end up, Lakers as 2, Dallas as 3. Dallas has a home game tomorrow against New Orleans.
Correct.
And then, I mean, who really knows? I mean,
exactly.
Yes.
But I wouldn't want to play Portland.
Well, I'll tell you what, the most interesting matchup to me there is that 4 or 5. Thunder versus the Nuggets.
Yes.
2 young teams. I think with, you know, Kendrick Perkins and that midseason trade has added toughness and grit down low for Scott Brooks and the Oklahoma City Thunder. They just look like a different team. And mind you, they got one of the most explosive scorers that probably this league has ever seen, and Kevin Durant, one of the better point guards, and Russell Westbrook.
How would the pace of that series be?
Wow. Anderson with a good-looking shot. Hits that over Brown. The Lakers will come the other way, having missed 8 consecutive shots. Bynum, Odom, Brown, Kobe, Walton, the 5 out there as Anderson picks up a foul for San Antonio. They have not scored the Lakers from the floor. First on Anderson. Lakers haven't scored from the floor in almost 5.5 minutes.
And you can hear the crowd around
Natives are getting restless
right
around
behind us. I mean, people are really worried about this team, and you know, if they can't come through tonight with a big win against this depleted Spurs squad, and now you've got some issues. So San Antonio just putting a little pressure on the Lakers here.
Bonner, percentage-wise, the 45% three-point shooter. #1 in the NBA. They also have the #3 three-point shooter in the league. As the Spurs are on an 11-0 run.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the demeanor of Phil Jackson and Brian Shaw over there on the bench as Lamar Odom finally gets one to go in the lane.
Look at Brian.
And look at them. They're like, been there, done that. Phil Jackson has his arms crossed like he's watching a polo match somewhere.
I looked down one year when we were playing the Lakers in the playoffs, and he was fixing his cuticles. He was like giving himself a manicure. Like, Phil, there's a playoff game going on right now.
Lakers down to 33% shooting here in the first half. Kobe, 3 of 7. Anderson was injured at the beginning of the season. Wow. Bonner. And Chris Quinn. Anderson for 3. Bynum is down. Hurt his knee.
Yes, he did.
He looks like he's holding on to his knee with all that activity right around him. That is not a good sign.
And this is the problem when you're playing these games late. That means something. When one of your guys, your main cog guys, like an Andrew Bynum is for the Lakers, goes down. Gary Beatty, the trainer for the Los Angeles Lakers. And you hope it's nothing serious, but the longer he stays down, because only he knows what the pain is in those knees because he's had so many of them.
Well, the crowd here has seen this movie before with Bynum, as Kobe Bryant is going to shoot a technical foul here.
Blair got the tee.
But this is scary.
Hyperextended. Hyperextended.
Yeah. Looks like
It went the wrong way.
Yeah.
Walking okay, but we won't know it. You know, it's interesting. About a week ago, he was telling, you know, the press that brace had really saved his knee on a number of occasions. Mitch Kupchak, general manager here for the Lakers.
Hey, you know, one of the things that the Lakers had happen this year was they lost a couple of their big men from last year, their reserves. DJ Benga, who was pretty effective for them, and they really don't have the depth behind Bynum and Gasol that they did a year ago.
Bynum will head to the locker room. He has never been this good in this recent stretch of 23-24 games on defense and rebound.
Yeah, I think he's averaging over 12 rebounds per game since the All-Star break, as opposed to about 7.5 beforehand. So he's really picked up his work in the paint.
Well, offensively, I think that's where his growth really has. And you know, with Kobe Bryant and Derek Fisher really allowing him to grow by throwing him the basketball, I think that's where you see his development. But you talked about the bench, though. Here's the injuries to Andrew Bynum over the last few years. You know, that's why they signed on Theo Ratliff. Theo Ratliff was supposed to be that insurance coming off the bench, and he's been hurt, you know, for most of the season in uniform tonight. So, you know, maybe we'll get an early look at him.
And you know what? I love Theo Ratliff. He was a great player in his day, but he's collecting his pension right now and an NBA paycheck at the same time. So I'm sorry, Theo. That's a
low blow.
But he,
that was a low blow.
I know.
That's a shot. That's a shot.
It's just a little joke, but no, he has not been effective for a couple of years, and he may be able to give them a minute or two, but you know, not much more than that.
The aggressive splitter inside. Foul goes on Luke Walton. Odom, 1 of 6. Kobe, 3 of 8. Novak checks in for San Antonio. I told you before, Blake is out with the chicken pox. Barnes is battling a knee. Neal. And that's a loose ball foul. That's on Los Angeles.
Well, now with Bynum in the locker room, I mean, look at the Lakers bench. That's it right there. 4 guys, Theo and Joe Smith, and Joe is actually going to get some time here.
Former #1 pick. Played with a number of teams the last few years, but another guy that brings experience come playoff time. And I think that's what Mitch Kupchak and Phil Jackson has always done here, is surrounded these guys with veteran players that, you know, in his 16 years have seen a lot of playoff action.
But, you know, a year ago they had Benga and Josh Powell, who were both younger guys who had much more lively legs. And I think they were pretty effective for that team last year.
Novak, loose ball foul, Walton.
My goodness, Joe Smith got faked out of the floor by Steve Novak. But you know, he hasn't seen a lot of court time.
A little anxious trying to block that shot.
Smith, by the way, has played for 16 teams in his 16 years. Neal.
Did you say 16?
16.
Is that the record?
That's got to be close. That's splitter.
Chucky Brown used to own that record. Remember, it was like 12. I think it was about 12 teams. I think maybe Joe has set the record. Is that a good one? Is that one you want to hold?
I don't know if that's one you want to hold.
You're on the opposite end of that one. You played for one team in 17 years.
Look at the fake here by Steve Novak. This is a guy that hasn't seen a lot of court time. Down goes Frazier there.
Spurs have missed 8 consecutive shots. Both teams shooting horribly. 29% for San Antonio, 31% for Los Angeles.
Look at this lineup for the Spurs. You got 4 3-point shooters along with Splitter, and it takes so much ground to cover for everybody as Novak can't get the 3 to go.
Well, they've set a record for 3 points made this season.
And yet the Lakers are only up 3 points with Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol, 2 All-Stars on the floor. I know it's early here in this first half as Pau Gasol gets another one to go down low.
I really think, guys, as we look ahead to the playoffs, that the Lakers are probably more vulnerable early rather than late.
I agree.
You know, I know
if you can steal a game or two here in Staples, it can give them pause to think a little bit, because the longer the playoff goes and Kobe Bryant gets into a rhythm and they can feel and see the end of the prize as Luke Walton gets one to go, that's when this team is most dangerous.
Lakers on a 7-0 run halfway through this second quarter. Kobe Bryant has got 12 points. Walton gets his first basket right here. And the Lakers still eyeing that second slot in the West on top of San Antonio.
To be in a position of fortune and privilege makes you more sensitive about people that are not as fortunate. You know, the world is just really big, and there's a lot of people, and they're in need of help, and they're in need of of people that care about him. That's why you have to be proactive and make sure you make a difference. To me, it's really special to be in that position.
Active in the community, Pau Gasol, who says these last two games, tonight and then tomorrow night up in Sacramento, are vital. They are must-win games for the Lakers.
Yeah, and I think this is a good position for the Lakers to be in because of what we talked about before, the lack of a sense of urgency. These two games, there's some pressure on them. I think maybe it'll give them that edge back that they've needed.
But can you find an edge back in 2 games, Steve?
Novak, 3.
I think the answer to that, if you're the Lakers, is yes. You know, maybe not for every team, but this club has won many championships together, the last 2, and I think they have a pretty good sense of who they are and what they need to do to get that edge back.
Kobe's got 14, only player in double figures. Lakers have lost 5 straight, 3 straight at home. After winning 17 of 18. San Antonio now playing starters Parker, Duncan tonight, along with Ginobili. Little drive inside, won't go. Rebound by Gasol.
Boy, he had Steve Novak wide open on the right wing. Gary Neal never saw him.
San Antonio has won 4 consecutive games coming into tonight. Here's our test into Novak with ease.
You talk about bully ball right there. Ron Artest just going right through the middle of Steve Novak to get the foul.
Big story so far. Cheryl, has been that injury to Bynum. What do you have?
Well, he hyperextended his right knee. That's a surgically repaired knee. He will not obviously return. He is scheduled to have an MRI tomorrow morning. And, guys, he will not travel with the team. And I'm sure Laker Nation is collectively holding their breath right now.
And you can see Gary Vitti, the head athletic trainer, talking to the coaching staff. Chuck Person there on the left. Phil in the middle there, Frank Hamlin. And maybe the future coach just to the right.
Brian Shaw.
What do you think?
Well, Kobe Bryant gave him a vote of confidence
He sure did.
the other day.
He sure did. And
well,
Shaw,
look, he's paid his dues. He understands this system probably better than anyone. And it'd be a great nod and a great gesture here as George Hill picks up an offensive foul for Brian Shaw to be the next head coach here for the Lakers.
We're going to look at this injury again. Bynum is running in the circle there, and you can see
he slipped right on the foot of DeJuan Blair.
You don't like to see. I mean, it's painful to watch.
It is.
And you know, looking at this injury and how long he stayed down, he understood the pain because he's had these knee injuries a number of times. So that's why he knew it was as serious as it is. Now, obviously, we don't know because we don't know what the MRI will tell us, but the pain is always the same.
Smith to Gasol, tripled inside. That's the Lakers' first offensive rebound tonight. Pau Gasol, 9.
Well, obviously, the critical thing is whether he's going to be able to play in the playoffs, as Fisher's going to get called for the foul.
Because going back to an earlier point, Steve, that may be the way. He's been unhealthy the last 2 seasons, and they've won, of course, 2 championships. Going into the playoffs, he has not had his health, but he had a healthy Bynum. I mean, that makes a world of difference for these Lakers.
I always go back to what Kevin McHale talked about after Game 7 of the championship series last year, when nobody could make a shot, and the Lakers won because of offensive rebounding. And McHale says in playoff games, especially late in the series, that rim gets a little smaller. The outside jumpers don't fall as often, and so it's the teams that can pound you inside and get the easy hoops that end up winning. And I think he's absolutely right. And without Bynum, and you've got the other injuries, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they could win it without him this year.
Fisher just picked up his first foul.
Well, the reason why they can still win it, as you just said, they won 2 championships with him not being 100% as George Hill goes coast to coast. But to me, it's going to go to what we talked about, probably the 6th man of the year in Lamar Odom. This is a guy who's another 6'10", 6'11", 7-footer coming off your bench who's so versatile, can do a number of things for you. That's what Phil Jackson does. He just looks down and sees another guy that has length and size that can get the job done for you.
Fisher.
The question then, though, becomes depth, because you're asking Gasol.
Now you're in a predicament.
Yeah, and can you really count on Joe Smith and Theo Ratliff to play significant minutes after rarely playing during the regular season?
Fisher with another foul. That's the second on Fisher.
Fisher's one of the best in the league at chasing shooters off of screens. You see how strong he is, but he will frequently try to just bull his way through the screener and sometimes get called for the foul.
I told you about the players not playing tonight, including Duncan and Parker and Ginobili. They're going to play tomorrow night in Phoenix as San Antonio closes out the regular season schedule. But we also know, regardless of what Chicago did, had they won tonight, and they still might, of course, San Antonio, and if they win tomorrow night in Phoenix, they'd have the #1 record in the NBA, and there are some spoils that come with that.
Yeah, but as Greg Popovich said, we're not worried about what's going to happen in June. And I think what happens before that obviously determines whether you even get to that point. And I think for San Antonio, this is all about putting themselves in the best position next week to be a good playoff team.
I think really when you get to this level of the Chicago Bulls, the Lakers, the Spurs, and you're 1, 2, even 3, you're worried about your own conference. Get out your conference. You get out your conference and get to June to the finals, you should be expected to be able to win a game on the road.
That's right.
There's a 3-second violation with timeout taken. Lakers moments ago.
Joe Smith to Powell with a nice little dump down, a little hesitation there, a little jump hook from Powell. 9 points.
Nimble. Timeout. Back at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Time now for Man Up presented by Miller Lite. And to show you the dominance of what the Spurs and Lakers have meant in this Western Conference since '99. Look at the names, look at the titles over that span. Fairly impressive.
Well, 3 future Hall of Famers, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal. And you could probably plug them in on any team and you probably have the same numbers looking around.
Yeah, 2 of the great coaches of all time,
yes.
too. In fact, I asked Pop at the meeting, I said, this could be your final game ever against Phil Jackson in
regular season.
In regular season, because Phil is expected to retire at the end of the season. Pop didn't really care.
I was a little surprised at that. I know there's mutual respect between the two.
There is.
There's huge respect, but you think there would have been a little bit more interaction.
But Pop is not a sentimental guy. Richard Jefferson way off on that three.
Man. But think of this. Think of the coaches of his age who have left as you take a look at the 2 and what they've done head-to-head. Larry Brown leaves Charlotte. Jerry Sloan leaves Utah.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson will leave Los Angeles. Don Nelson left before the season with Golden State. Guys about his age or with his experience and certainly winning percentage all leaving.
Yeah.
So right now he is the longest tenured head coach in the NBA in 15 years.
Yeah, but look at the up-and-coming Eric Spoelstra, Scott Brooks, even Tom Thibodeau, who's an older guy, but this is his rookie year as being a head coach. So, the coaching ranks is still getting some great young talent as well.
But they still have to win titles and establish themselves.
True.
I think it's tough for the league to lose Jerry Sloan and Phil Jackson as George Hill's going to get called for the offensive foul.
Second.
And I think it's really tough for the NBA to lose Jerry Sloan, to lose Phil Jackson. These guys, they're on the Mount Rushmore of coaches in the history of the league. And the league will be worse as a result of losing both of them.
George Hill just picked up his 3rd foul. Quinn comes in for him. Kobe moments ago picked up his first personal foul. Only player in double figures with 14, now 16 for Kobe. He's one of the great stories about Bryant, maybe untold, is his transition from slashing and how seamlessly he has made to a guy now who pulls back and doesn't necessarily take it inside all the time. And gets that mid-range shot to the long shot.
Remind you of anybody?
Yeah, that's my point.
I was getting ready to say,
point.
I saw this firsthand because I had to guard him, Jay. You saw it up close because you played with the man, but
Michael Jordan.
When he came back from retirement, gone was really the explosive, going to the hole, dunking on your center and power forward. And that mid-range game and that three-point game of MJ's really improved. Now, I don't know what he was doing on the baseball diamond, but he was certainly revamping his game.
Coming up will be the T-Mobile halftime report. The award-winning Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet Charles, and Chris Webber all in studios. They're going to be giving out some awards tonight, which will be a lot of fun to hear who they think will be the MVP, the Coach of the Year. We're going to deal with Coach of the Year in the second half and MVP as well. But it is interesting to see the coaching landscape in the NBA change before our eyes and how players adjust in mid-career.
It's interesting, Kev. Usually around this time of year, Steve, We hear about coaches being on the hot seat and maybe getting a pink slip as soon as the season's over. This is the most I've seen so many coaches that are worthy of winning Coach of the Year. I mean, this goes down to Nate McMillan, Rick Adelman, Eric Spoelstra, Tom Thibodeau, Phil Jackson,
George Karl,
Greg Popovich. There's so many coaches that are worthy. Lionel Hollins in Memphis.
Yeah.
Well said. You know, when you take a look at especially guys like Popovich, revamps his offense. They make truly one significant change in the offseason, bringing in Neal as the foul goes on Pau Gasol for the first time. They bring in Splitter as well, but nothing like Boozer. No big midseason trade. And to change your philosophy on offense and do what he's done and win another 60-win season in his career, pretty doggone impressive.
Well, he knew that in order for this team to succeed, they had to play differently than what they did in the past. And you look from last year to this season, the points, field goal percentage, the three-point percentage, everything is up. And that's what makes Popovich the coach that he is. He adapts to his personnel. He knew that Duncan wasn't the dominant force that he once was, so he relies on the penetration, the speed, and the big emphasis in training camp was pushing the ball ahead, outlet passes, getting the ball up the floor before the defenses could get set.
And some would say as Kobe hoists up a three, Bonner with the rebound. One of the finest coaching jobs he's done in his 15 years with the Spurs.
Well, I'm curious to know how that conversation went with the future Hall of Famer Tim Duncan, because you know, gone are the days of coming down slowly, throwing the ball down to him. How do you go to your Hall of Famer and say, look, Steve, look, Tim, this is how we're going to be successful?
I appreciate you putting me in the Hall of Fame for a second.
Yeah, you have 5 rings, you should be, as the Red Rocket gets another 3 to go.
Now playing the big three. 7 seconds to play in the half. Bonner with 8 all in the second quarter. Kobe Bryant. Wipe it away. Offensive foul on Kobe.
Good play from Splitter. And
Yep.
Reggie, just to get back to your question, having played with Tim Duncan, the answer to that question is no big deal. Just go to Tim and tell him. And Tim has no ego. He's a guy who's just going to accept whatever his role has to be. As you see Splitter coming over in good position and gets his foot, whether it was outside the line or above the line, it wasn't on it, and that's what the officials were looking for.
You can see his third, so 3.1 to play. And again, we got no big three playing for San Antonio. He's without. Phil Jackson without Bynum. We're still trying to get an update on his injury because that hyperextended knee looked a little bit iffy as he went back to the locker room.
It's the story of the playoffs. I mean, coming up, whatever happens tomorrow with that MRI is critical. It affects this entire league.
Well, it's interesting because now the Lakers look very vulnerable. You know, gone is that size and that mystique of they have that, you know, big wall with Bynum being gone. This Laker team does not look very, very safe in these upcoming playoffs.
Jefferson. Foul. Foul at the buzzer. You bet he was.
Got him right on the wrist.
They'll have a chance to tie it going to halftime. Lakers, I mean, you can see that Phil Jackson has said, I am concerned about my team.
You know how you're concerned? Listen to the crowd here. I mean, the Spurs are playing without their 3 best players, as well as Antonio McDyess. Look at the time on the clock right here as Richard Jefferson. Did he get it off in time? And absolutely. And there's the foul right there by Ron Artest on the wrist of Richard Jefferson.
Yeah, so now they're going to look at the clock and establish. It looked like it was about 0.7 or 0.8. And good call. And I think that you're right, Reggie. I think the fans were not booing the officials. I think they were booing the team because that's one of those little mistakes that you just can't afford to make over the course of 48 minutes. And it's that lack of execution in every aspect of the game that has cost them.
They are sleepwalking through this first half, and they've sleptwalked the last 5 games.
Well, Phil Jackson said the measure of success is what you've just recently accomplished, and that's the problem. They've accomplished nothing after winning 17 of 18. And now they look so flat heading into the postseason.
Well, you think Kobe will redecorate the locker room at halftime now?
He might.
Halftime here, Spurs close out the second quarter on a 16-6 run. 16 from Bryant. Pau Gasol has 11 on a single Spur in double figures. 8 from Hill. He's got 3 fouls, though. 8 from Bonner. Let's go to Cheryl Miller.
Derek, you said before the game to me that it was very important for you guys to approach these next 2 games with a sense of urgency. What stood out about that first half? What concerns you?
Well, I mean, it's not very good. I mean, no excuses at all, but we're prepared and fired up and ready to play against certain guys, and all of a sudden you're playing different guys that like to do different things. So I think it's taking us some time to get used to who we're playing against tonight without Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, but, you know, we have to play much better.
What was your first reaction when Andrew Bynum went down, and how does that affect the team?
You know, it obviously impacts our mood and our spirit because he's so important to what we do. And, you know, we don't have the type of chance we need to have without him in the middle. And so we're hopeful that regardless of whether he comes back tonight, that he's okay down the line.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, coming up after the break, we'll be singing it down to our Atlanta studios for the T-Mobile halftime report with EJ, Kenny, and Sir Charles. Our score here at halftime, it's the Lakers 45, the Spurs 45.
Welcome back to Los Angeles. NBA on TNT tonight, presented by the United States Marine Corps. Kobe Bryant with 16, Gasol with 11. No Spur in double figures. The big story so far in this one, the injury to Andrew Bynum.
Well, you see, he steps on, you know, a landscape-changing moment for this year's playoffs.
Well, one thing I'm going to say for the Lakers that they have experience playing without Andrew Bynum. And to me, this just shifts most of the focus to Lamar Odom, who you heard the guys at halftime, probably their 6th man of the year. You know, they've been down this road before with the injuries to Bynum. I look for these guys to rebound and, you know, pick up the pieces.
Bynum's had an interesting couple days. He had food poisoning over the weekend. He has the knee injury tonight. But you can see the impact he gives this team with him and without him.
Well, remember, this is not a great defensive team on the perimeter. They get broken down a lot by point guards, and so the Lakers really rely on him to protect that rim. You see the numbers prove that, and that's why I think without him, I don't think they can win. We heard Charles Barkley at halftime say
with or
he doesn't think they're going to win either way. I think with him, they've got a great chance, but without him, I don't think they have the depth or the defense to get it done this year, but you know, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Lakers have lost 5 straight. Spurs have won 4 in a row as we start the second half.
Well, where's the intensity? This is supposed to be a wake-up call. We all heard all a sense of urgency and a must-win from, you know, the stars of the Lakers, but yet it's 45 all here at halftime with the Spurs playing with their 2nd and 3rd unit guys. I just want to see where the sense of urgency here for the team in yellow.
Lakers shot 40% in that first half. Spurs 33%. How do you shoot 33% in your tie? Pretty amazing, but Lakers just weren't much better.
And aside from Jefferson, we see the starters resting tonight. With more on Bynum, let's once again check in with our Cheryl Miller.
Well, guys, I spoke to assistant coach Brian Shaw, and I asked him about the first half performance. He said we looked like a team that once they announced that the Spurs' main 4 guys were not playing, we took a deep breath, relaxed, and didn't play with that sense of urgency that you mentioned, Reggie. He said, you know what? This is what happens when you don't take care of a business. Bad thing happens, and that's what he was referring to, Andrew Bynum going down. Also, guys, one quick knee injury update. Spoke to Matt Barnes, who said his right knee has been acting up. He said he could hardly move it. He will not play tomorrow night, and hopefully the 4 days rest, that he'll be able to be back up and running, guys.
And Blake has chicken pox, and we heard Derek Fisher tell Cheryl, Reggie, that, you know, when they found out that the regulars weren't going to play, that it did kind of affect them emotionally. The Lakers,
again, this is a veteran team that's getting bored again. And, you know, when you've lost 5 games in a row against some of the teams, if they would have won 1 or 2 of those games, probably you sit Andrew Bynum for a game like this, or very much the same way Greg Popovich is doing for the San Antonio Spurs.
They lost that luxury because of their lackadaisical play this past week and a half.
Odom now has 6. Before that, he picked up his 2nd personal foul. Here's Hill. He's playing with 3 fouls. Jefferson, Neal, Ware, and Bonner. Getting the second half for San Antonio. Gasol with a foul. Out there with our testing, Kobe. Derek Fisher, Odom. That's the 2nd on Pau Gasol. So Hill will be at the free throw line. A look at Tim Duncan, who says that he's got great energy. And he's played less minutes and scored less points this season than any other. But the ankle that he twisted a couple weeks ago is still not 100%. Sunday MLB on TBS returns with an AL East battle at Fenway Park. Catch the Blue Jays and Red Sox this Sunday, 1:30 Eastern Time on TBS.
Kevin, you mentioned the minutes. Duncan with a career low average of 28 minutes per game. And Greg Popovich, this isn't the first time he's rested him, and I think, Reggie, you alluded to this in the first half. Duncan rested during the middle of that 6-game losing streak for the Spurs against Portland at home, and he was not injured, but Popovich felt like he needed a break as Kobe knocks down that turnaround jumper. So I think Pop has done a great job of managing the minutes of his star players throughout this whole year.
Kobe now with 18.
Well, listening to Popovich, he said, look, we spent more time in the weight room lifting weights, and our practices have been much harder because of that. We had to change our style, and yeah, the minutes are down for his main guys as Lamar Odom tries to get one to go. But our practices and being in the weight room is going to allow us the luxury of these guys going deep in the playoff run. Yeah, his minutes are down and points are down and rebounds are down, but he believes his minutes will go up come playoff time.
And that was really a change in philosophy, the practice issue that you talked about. In the past few years, they really haven't practiced as hard. Pop tried to save their legs by keeping them away from the practice floor. And he realized they got a little rusty. And over the last couple of years, their practice habits kind of deteriorated a little bit. So their focus this year was, let's get after it on the practice floor. Not for too long, but we're going to make sure we stay sharp. And that's why they got off to that quick start.
Gasol volleyballs it back. And Kobe Bryant, 6 of 14. Screened by Pop.
Wow. He is so good. He and Pau Gasol on that little two-man game off the post feed. Bryant working it off that cut, and that mid-range jump shot, just automatic.
Right now, let's take a look at the all-new Chrysler 300C in the streets of Los Angeles. Reggie got Steve. Steve and Reggie flying through the streets. Hand on the wheel. Turn up the AC. The bright lights. The big-time wheels. There they go. Timeout in Los Angeles on TNT. Busy night around the Staples Center here in downtown Los Angeles. Kobe and Odom have done all the scoring so far in this third quarter. Jumping out now, the Lakers to a 54-47 lead. Bryant with 20 in the game. Hill leads the Spurs with 10. No Duncan tonight. They will play tomorrow. He, Parker, and Ginobili. Ginobili and Parker, the top two scorers for San Antonio. Just percentage points apart. Blair across the lane after a little conversation with Duncan during that break.
You can also throw Antonio McDyess in there, another guy that's played a big part for the Spurs having the best record here in the league.
Kevin, you mentioned that conversation that Blair had with Duncan as Fisher misses the jumper. But during the timeout, Tim Duncan went over, put his hand around DeJuan Blair, and he talked to him. And I think what he was saying was, here's how you have to go against Pau Gasol. And you saw the adjustment Blair made. He went right into his body that time and got to the rim. If you try to shoot over the top of Gasol, he's too long. He's going to challenge that shot and force you to miss. So nice adjustment from Blair with a little help from Tim Duncan.
Bonner, after Jefferson missed another one, he is 1 of 7. Matt Bonner will be at the line for San Antonio. You know, we're talking about three-point shooting. We mentioned this back in the first half where San Antonio has had this prolific season shooting threes, and the green light is on. It'll be interesting to see what Greg Popovich does with that three-point shooting come playoff time, how that mixes in, because historically three-point shooting teams have not fared that well.
Well, really, he takes it case by case, game by game, and we're here to see the DeJuan Blair in the quick move in the lane against Powell using the left hand in the glass. But you're right. You know, you got to pick and choose when you're going to use this weapon. They lead the league in three-point shooting at 40%. But you can't have a steady diet of that.
I think the tricky part for the Spurs is, you know, they've always been a team that's pounded the ball inside until the last few years. And they really haven't won a title by being a long-range three-point shooting team, as Fisher knocks one down from the three-point line. But Popovich said he thinks this is the best way for his team to win. He thinks they can do it in the postseason. And I think he's right in terms of the strategy. They're not good enough inside anymore to pound it into them.
Look at Jefferson as he flies in. You know, when he scores, just think of him as a fourth option for this team. The balance that the Spurs acquire with Jefferson scoring really makes them formidable. I mean, really makes them very, very tough.
Well, Reggie, didn't you call him kind of the X factor in the first half?
I mean, you're going to need his slashing. You know, Manu Ginobili, as well as he shot the ball from three and can slash and get into the lane along with Tony Parker. But if you have that third guy that can take the ball off the dribble and attack those bigs and get him in foul trouble, and, you know, we're seeing the inconsistent when he came over from New Jersey and, you know, from Milwaukee and so forth. He just doesn't have that same little zest.
Right. But he's adapted his game. You see the numbers. He's third in the league in three-point shooting. And, you know, a year ago when I was with Phoenix, we played them in the playoffs. And we basically collapsed on him and let him shoot. And he didn't want to shoot. He comes up with a turnover there from Brown. Wow. But the Spurs could not space the floor with him last year. They were much easier to defend. And now that he's honed that three-point shot, they can really space the floor offensively.
James Anderson back in the game. He's been out there for a couple minutes. And he comes the other way. Splitter is now on the bench. Here's Fisher. Anderson is on him. Mismatch. Hill is watching Kobe. Brown in a deep slump until that three rung up outside by Shannon Brown.
He was 9 for his last 34 going into that shot after an 0 for 3 first half. So, boy, he needed that one.
Moments ago, Gasol picked up his third foul as Jefferson slashes. Blair comes up with another 2.
Really love the activity by DeJuan Blair. 10 points, 8 rebounds already. Look at his size, especially going against Powell. You would think that as Kobe Bryant comes up and gets the offensive foul against James Anderson.
Just finishing off that three-point talk for San Antonio. They had 4 different players, over 100 made three-point shots. That is a team record as the foul goes on Kobe for the 4th time. 4 fouls, and we're midway through the 3rd.
Technical foul on Kobe.
That is, he had his 15th rescinded the other day, so he has 14. Now he's back to 15.
Yeah, so if he were to get another one tonight, he would be suspended for tomorrow.
Now, if he gets one tomorrow in Sacramento, he will be suspended for the first game of next season, if there is a next season.
Yeah, in the playoffs, it starts over, right?
Yes.
The count starts over. He's yelling at Benny, and we might want to take the camera off him right now for the children watching it at home.
Well, that's his 4th foul. So now you're without Kobe Bryant for the remaining of this 3rd period for 6 minutes. See which Laker now here is going to be able to step up offensively and carry the load.
Luke Walton has checked in for LA. Splitter has come in for Blair.
Steve, you mentioned in the first half the lack of depth. You know, no Barnes, no Blake. As Richard Jefferson gets one to go down, his 10th point.
And now, no Bynum.
And no Bynum, right.
And so even if Bynum is to return to the playoffs, he's not going to play tomorrow night. You have to play Gasol, you know, most of this game, probably most of tomorrow night if you want to get that win. You know, how does he respond?
Well, I tell you what, there's one team in Texas that's watching this game and licking their chops, hoping that San Antonio can pull the upset here, and that would be the Dallas Mavericks.
That'd be big for them to get to that 2 seed.
Odom working right around Bonner inside. Lamar Odom has put in 9 with 5 rebounds. 7 of the 9 for Odom come in this 3rd quarter. Anderson to Splitter.
Well, great defensive help from Derek Fisher.
Hill for 3. Splitter. And back to Jefferson.
He's got to finish up the defensive possession, though, by grabbing the rebound.
Between Splitter and Blair, they're just doing a fantastic job on the offensive glass.
Here's George Hill. Splitter can't get it. He was right there. Fisher for 3.
Wow, what hustle there by George Hill.
Spurs are shooting 29% 30%, really, 29.8. Lakers, 43%.
They're only down 4, make it 2.
Splitter with 6.
Surprising that
Are
jump
you kidding
ball.
me?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think he could,
you
could
kidding
score
me?
over the top. Nice move by Splitter.
He's a blue-collar player, is a gritty player for this
He is.
San Antonio
but
team.
he can move. You know, he's got good feet. He's going to pick up the foul there. And what you like about him is the activity defensively and on the glass. As you said, Reggie's created a couple of extra possessions for the Spurs here.
We have a 2-point game here. Lakers on top by 2. Splitter picks up his first. Right now we're going to take you to our TNT studios in Atlanta, and here's Ernie Johnson. Good stuff there, EJ. Thank you very much. But what is interesting to me about all that is what Gerald Wallace has meant to the Portland Trail Blazers. He had a great game against the Lakers. Reg, you and I saw him last Thursday against the Utah Jazz. He was terrific. That has been kind of an under-the-radar type acquisition that has really reverberated very strongly with the Blazers.
Well, let's talk about some of these big midseason trades. We talked about Carmelo Anthony going to the Knicks, Kendrick Perkins, and the Thunder. But to me, you're right, Kev. You know, Gerald Wallace in Portland and what he has done, he's brought a toughness. You know, he does a little bit of everything. He's going to score for you. He's going to rebound. But really, it's his defense. And I think him along with Camby and LaMarcus Aldridge, it makes them so long defensively.
Yeah. They can switch now.
Right.
Sometimes 1 through 5. You know, when Camby is out there on pick and roll, as Brown misses the 3, they can switch 1 through 5. And Wallace is one of those versatile defenders, a little bit like Lamar Odom, who can guard the post or guard pick and roll and take the perimeter guy.
Spurs this quarter 4 of 18. Brown fanning the last time down 1 of 5 for Los Angeles. Shooting has been abysmal in this game. Fisher, Splitter, Hill.
I feel like I'm doing the Butler-UConn game again, guys.
Anderson can't hit. Well, they got the right colors kind of on, don't they? The Spurs.
Sheldon Mack misses another one. Sean Van Zandt.
Oh, boy, I felt so bad for those guys. They had such a great run. And then to finish it off that way was just so unfortunate. But they had an amazing season.
Splitter with a nice little move inside here on Pau Gasol. Lakers by 4 on TNT. Blazers winning tonight. Gerald Wallace with another big game for Portland, and they are going to be the 6th seed in the Western Conference. So seeds 1, 5, and 6 are set. Aldridge, Roy, if they can get him going, but he's been coming off the bench. He does not look at all what what we're used to seeing, the 3-time All-Star.
He's had the knee issues, but what I like about Portland is they kind of play a playoff style basketball all season long. They're accustomed to that grinded out, half-court game. And as we just talked about, their defense, it's always been good. Now it's even better with Wallace. And they are a team that I would not want to play.
Well, what I like about them, too, is Andre Miller being able to control the point and the tempo. And that's what you want from playoff basketball time. A point guard you can trust, and that's exactly what Nate McMillan has. And, Kev, you're right. Brandon Roy is going to have to start making shots for them, as well as Rudy Fernandez, who really has been awful since the All-Star break.
Green for 3. Splitter against Gasol. That is an offensive foul on Splitter. Odom, by the way, now has 11 points. Kobe Bryant, you saw him on the bench moments ago, second on Splitter. You saw Kobe on the bench. Kobe's got 4 fouls with his 20 points and a technical. Chris Quinn has come in the game for Hill for San Antonio. Shannon Brown. Boy, is he struggling. He is 1 of 6. Anderson with a shove and a foul. So Blake is gone. Barnes is gone. And Brown's doing nothing. I mean, those Bs.
And Bynum is gone.
Bynum is gone. Those 4 B players,
the killer bees.
The killer bees.
Yep.
They've caused some issues now with this team as we wind down the regular season.
Yeah, and heading into the playoffs, I mean, that's a major issue. We heard Cheryl talk about Matt Barnes' knee and how much it's bothering him, so who knows how effective he can be in the playoffs. Steve Blake, I mean, with the chicken pox, I would think he's probably out for at least the next 4 or 5 days, which takes you right up to that first game of the playoffs.
You said you had him when you played.
I did, yeah, when I was, I think, in my second year in the league. That's not a whole lot of fun.
No.
Where are you hanging out? Where are you?
I was at the circus. I went to the circus.
What are you doing?
I went to the circus with my wife in Cleveland. We were a little bored and hanging around all the kids. It was not fun.
Sweep up after the elephants, you don't know what's going to happen. Here comes.
I didn't work there, Kev. I went. I bought a ticket.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought a little money on the side there, Steve. I didn't mean to throw you into the bus. There's an offensive foul. Quinn took it on. Luke Walton still has some back issues. Boy, his passing is terrific. That's the 3rd on Luke. He's got 3.
He's always been a favorite of Phil Jackson's because of his ability to pass the ball in this triangle offense. Has a great feel for the game and wonderful post feeder. Plays awfully well with Kyle Gasol and Kobe.
Odom getting the Anderson miss.
San Antonio just cannot find the bottom of the basket.
Brown, finally.
Yeah,
He gets one to go.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
When you have that kind of athleticism and you're struggling, get to the rim. And a great cut there from Brown.
100 times have we seen this pinch pokes action and these give and goes from down low, whether it be Powell or Lamar Odom.
Lakers on a little 6-0 run. Spurs have missed the last 6 shots. And they're going to bring back in Neal. He'll take the place of Anderson. How much do you think the self-imposed retirement Phil Jackson announced before the season has played in motivating this team? I mean, as a player, you guys have played
apparently
not. But when they're winning 17 out of 18, it looked like, they wanted to make the push. And now you're right. They've lost 5 straight coming into tonight.
Look, they want to send Phil Jackson off, obviously, with a 12th championship.
Green get that to go.
And, you look at the play, especially as a recent, this is just a veteran team that's bored. And
you really believe it?
They're bored. And that's all I can say is because you look at the level of competition. When they lost to Denver here at home and they felt that they didn't have another chance to catch San Antonio, they just basically threw in their towel and says, all right, we'll get ready for the playoffs. Now what happened was Dallas rebounded and started to play better, and they still are in jeopardy of losing that number 2 seed, which now they're currently 3rd.
So you're saying that they're basically just kind of taking a break before they rev up the intensity of the playoffs.
And that's what Derek Fisher said the other day. He admitted as much. The problem is, with the injuries they have, with the fact that they're not going in on a roll, and let's face it, they're older. Kobe Bryant is not the same guy now as he was a few years ago. So, can they flip the switch and get it going and beat all these young, athletic Western Conference teams?
Ratliff for Gasol. Splitter, by the way, picked up his 3rd personal foul. So they're going to lose Phil Jackson Reg at the end of this season. They got a lot of age, as Steve just said, on this team already. And they've got some big free agent issues coming up in 2012. I mean, you talk about a window that is lowering, this would be it.
Yeah, with Dr. Butts and Mitch Kupchak and all these fabulous front office and the younger Butts as well, they've always fielded a team here. And you see the crowd here. This is the #1 show in Los Angeles. They talk about Hollywood, which is great and all, but when it comes to sports entertainment, the Lakers are the #1 show.
Odom. This will be a 3. Neal, Brown, knocked away inside by Novak. Good if it goes. That takes us to the 4th. San Antonio is hanging in there as they rest a lot of their big-name stars. Kobe Bryant hasn't played that much here in the 3rd with 4 fouls, but his Lakers, who have lost 5 straight, lead the Spurs by 6. To the go on TNT. We're in Los Angeles tonight on TNT. The NBA on TNT is presented by the United States Marine Corps. And moments ago, Cheryl Miller caught up with Laker head coach Phil Jackson.
Coach, the players spoke about playing with a greater determination tonight. What's your assessment of the first 3 quarters?
They're awful. We're really awful out there.
Well, let's talk about something that's not as quite as funny as Andrew Bynum going down in the second quarter. What was your initial reaction?
Well, you know, we're always worried when Andrew goes down because he's had some bad falls. But I went in at halftime and talked to him. He said, I'm going to be all right.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right.
Kobe is in to begin the fourth quarter with his 4 fouls. Doubled by Novak and Neal. Blair comes up with the loose ball inside a Laker turnover. Turnovers have been an issue. They've got 10 in this game to the Lakers so far.
Well, I like the honesty by Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
Throwing it all back on the players. And they're playing awful. We're supposed to get ready to try to win the number 2 seed, and there's supposed to be a sense of urgency.
He said he was worried in the press earlier this week.
He did, but I also like his honesty about Andrew Bynum. That's great news if that's the case, that he will be okay.
Kobe Bryant, 7 of 17. Spurs are shooting 31%. Novak with the triple. Timeout, Los Angeles.
Well, if he was upset before, he's livid now.
He is ticked off at Brown. Spurs with a little 7-0 run.
Quick little pass over to Novak, knocks down the long 3.
Moments ago, the Spurs got this 3 from Novak, the rotating Odom, and then the timeout was called. First of all, an earful for Brown, and then the rest of the bench from Coach Phil Jackson.
And look at Kobe right now, just the frustration setting in, and it's the little things. You know, Phil Jackson recognizes that they're not closing out on shooters. Look at the lineup that's out here for the Spurs. They've got 4 3-point shooters and DeJuan Blair. You've got Steve Novak playing the 4, who's only going to shoot 3s, and yet no defensive recognition on the rotations for the Lakers. So again, just that lack of concentration.
Well, to me, look who's on the floor for the Lakers. Future Hall of Famer Kobe Bryant, the 6th man of the year in Lamar Odom, and an all-star in Pau Gasol, and you're only at 3 points.
Yeah. Each of them on pace to play, you know, maybe 40 minutes if they finish this game out.
Shannon Brown with 7.
With a game to play tomorrow in Sacramento, possibly the last game, and you know emotions are going to be high in Arco Arena tomorrow.
Gasol's got the triple-double. That was his 12th rebound with his 13 points. Kobe, 7 of 17. Artest is 0 of 1. 0 of 1 for Ron Artest shooting tonight.
This is a guy who's really scored well since the All-Star break. Kobe was fouled hard by DeJuan Blair.
Big bear hug by Blair, a Pittsburgh-born kid, grew up in the shadows of the University of Pittsburgh, which is where he went to college.
I mean, look at this shot right here that Kobe Bryant takes. And if Blair doesn't grab Kobe Bryant coming down right here, this might have been a flagrant foul right here. It didn't look like he was making a play on the ball whatsoever.
Neal picks up his second. Kobe will be at the line.
You know, Kobe has taken some shots over the last week and a half. You know, I looking at that ESPN game and up in Utah when he took a shots when he was driving in by, you know, some of the players there on Utah. And this is wear and tear over the course of a game. And again, he's not young like he used to be.
Well, we talked about that earlier, how he's made the transition to this stage of his life. His free throw attempts are down to now 7 a game from a high of 10 a game just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have the lift that he once had, and he doesn't practice very often either. He walks through things, and he does his maintenance strength and conditioning wise, but the Lakers can't afford to throw him out there on the court because of the wear and tear on the joints. Remember, they've got him on a huge contract for about the next 4 seasons, so they've got to preserve him as best they can.
Green, another 3. He played with Jordan at about this stage of his career when he was 33, 34 years old. What similarities or differences do you see physically between these two in terms of health and what they can and can't do?
I think they're similar in the way they adjusted their games as they got older and got better down on the block. You know, figured some things out, how to play without, you know, being a high flyer. And they're similar in their demeanor and their competitive desire. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been two players who would get more upset with every little play than Jordan and Brian. That's how badly they want to win.
Look at Blair. Globetrotter move. Kept it alive, and it's off of Artest.
And if Artest would have, if he would not have ripped the ball out of his hands, it probably would have been a jump ball.
They changed who it was off of. They first, now they're confirmed. The officials are going to
How is it off Blair? Yeah, how is that off Blair? I'd have to take another look at that. Unless it went off his chest.
Initially, they said it was San Antonio's ball. Then they talked, and now they say it's off of the Lakers.
You don't hear too much of an argument from DeJuan Blair.
Odom to the shot. Blair knocks it away.
If you're Powell, you've got to be tougher than that. You've got a guy that is 6 inches smaller than you.
Well, what about Kendrick Perkins? As Blair goes in for his 12th point, he's got 10 rebounds. Perkins played pretty well here the other night.
Yeah,
about the same size.
Had some words about Powell and Phil Jackson and Kobe, calling them soft, and Phil is very arrogant.
Gasol.
Powell just brushed it off.
Neal.
I love that Perkins trade. I think he gives,
did too.
He gives Oklahoma City an edge. Wow. Perry Neal.
Holy smokes.
Ties the game. Unbelievable. They're shooting 33%.
And Jack looks bewildered.
Unshaven. Gasol. Powell's got 15 and 12. 4 assists. Novak.
Nice move.
That was a good move.
You know, we heard Derek Fisher talk about how hard it is to play in this game when you're expecting one team to show up and the other actually comes out on the floor with all the guys sitting out. But on the flip side, this is an easy game to play in if you're the Spurs and all these reserves. These are minutes they don't usually get. These guys are just out here having fun tonight.
All right, Steve, but that's okay. After the first period, I get that. But don't you think you would pick up your level of play after that?
You think?
Great.
I am shocked right now at the level of aggressiveness from the San Antonio Spurs and looking at the two-time defending Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not trying to bash the Lakers, but come on, you got to be kidding me.
Well, Spurs are so loose.
And they're finally starting to make shots, and they should be loose. I mean, there's nothing really to play for.
Exactly. Corkscrew move inside by Odom, who takes away the San Antonio lead. When the Spurs were up, their last lead was 6-5. That was early in the first quarter of play.
Well, remember when they did this a couple of weeks ago at home against Portland, they had lost 4 in a row. And Pop sat some of his main guys out, and they almost won that game. And he mentioned that to us beforehand. Tonight, he said, you know, we feel like our bench guys can come in and compete and play well. And they haven't shot well, but they've definitely competed, and they've hung in here all night.
Quinn. Odom's got his 7th rebound into Novak. Just picked up his first foul at the other end. Kobe is 7 of 18. From behind, Green got it.
Kobe's going to have to be very careful. He's doing a lot of drawing out here to the officials. Rodney Mott, Vinny Adams. You don't want to pick up another technical. You would be ejected from this game, but that's number 16 for you.
Green's got 2. Here comes Kobe to the free throw line. Number 6 in scoring in the NBA. Upcoming national TV schedule. Tomorrow, last day of the regular season. ESPN. Hornets and Mavs. Clippers are going to host the Grizzlies. Playoffs begin on ABC, TNT, and NBA TV. Coming up over the weekend.
And both of those games tomorrow night have major implications in terms of seeding. You know, Dallas needs to win that one badly. They're trying to hold off Oklahoma City, and they're also trying to bypass the Lakers for the 2 seed if the Lakers slip up.
Right. We've also heard a lot of teams say they'd rather play Dallas. You know, Denver, for one, said Dallas would be a team they'd rather.
How about George Karl?
It's amazing how these teams have called them out.
And George Karl in particular, that really surprised me. I mean, George is an amazing coach as Neal gets all the way to the rim. But normally coaches don't want to talk about matchups and any kind of bulletin board material
Well, if you're Rick Carlisle and you're looking at your roster and you're understanding what has happened over the last few seasons with the Dallas Mavericks, really since that collapse against the Heat in the finals in 2006, everyone's lining up as finally Brown gets a long one to go. That's why a lot of teams are starting to lick their chops, thinking they can, go into Dallas and win.
Neal's got 11. Here comes Bonner with the three. Goal. Matt Bonner off the bench, 22 minutes, 13 points.
I've never seen Tim Duncan smile so much at the performance by some of the subs here for the San Antonio Spurs. He's on the edge of his seat.
Odom right into Bonner's defense, or lack thereof.
Reggie, do you think this could be good for the Lakers right now, this last 6-minute stretch, just to have that edge and feel like they have to win?
Well, you thought they would have had that against Oklahoma City, but apparently not. But here's the Red Rocket with the little pump fake, step back three. And finally some bench production from one of the killer bees, Lamar Odom, off the tape. Lakers up 2.
It's the time of year you start to think about who matches up best against who. Who do you think Kobe and the Lakers match up best against when they could be anywhere from number 2 to the 3rd to the 4th seed in the West?
Well, I think New Orleans and Memphis definitely poses problems with them because Chris Paul, the factor of him being point guard, that's one thing that's always hurt the Lakers, is a point guard who can penetrate and get into the lane. Zach Randolph, to me, from Memphis, really, he dominates Pau Gasol at times. Now, if they slip down to number 4, Denver has so many players now because of the trade, with Gallinari and Ty Lawson. We talked about point guards, Felton, Kenyon Martin played well in the A. The Lakers, especially if Bynum is hurt, misses some significant time.
Fisher has come in for Brown.
You can look up and down the Western Conference. Everybody's pretty good. It's going to be tough no matter who they play against. You're going to win the championship. I don't think you can worry too much about your first-round matchup. You just got to go win it. And there may be some matchups the Lakers don't want, but I guarantee one thing: nobody else wants to play the Lakers either.
That's what everybody's been saying. Artest, in only his 2nd shot tonight, he's got a total of 6 in 26 minutes. Anderson back in by Kobe, by Artest. And Blair and Artest go hitting the deck. That's going to go on DeJuan Blair.
One of the things that we all have to be careful of is when you go into the playoffs and you think, man, they don't look good right now, and I don't think they can win, whether you're talking about the Lakers or maybe Boston last year. But the playoffs are a totally different thing.
Absolutely.
No back-to-backs. Matchups are everything. If you get a favorable matchup, then you wear a team out over 7 games, you start to build confidence, and it really is a totally different season. So I think you have to be careful about jumping to conclusions, whether it's with the Lakers right now or any team out there, frankly.
Well, you said the Lakers last year in the months of March and April, they went 12-10, losing 7 of their last 11. Of course, Bryant was out for 4 of those 5. The point is, they went on to win their 2nd consecutive championship.
And yet, we're talking about the Lakers and how lethargic they've looked throughout this game. To me, they still have one of the, if not the best closer in the game in Kobe Bryant. Now, how are you ever going to bet against Kobe Bryant if the game is close and he has the basketball in his hands? So having said all that about the Lakers, they are still the 2-time defending champion.
Right.
Neal with Artest following, and we've got Gasol in there. Lakers on a little 6-0 run after the game was tied at 83. That's going to go on Ron Artest, who picks up number 5. And so we'll see Neal at the line for the San Antonio Spurs. He is a rookie at 26 years of age. He's out of Towson. He's played pro basketball overseas. Shop NBAstore.com now for the best selection of Spurs and Lakers gear. Choose from jerseys, shooting, shirts, hats, and more. NBAstore.com. One store, every team. The Spurs have now made 13 consecutive free throws.
Well, let's talk a little bit about them, because they're the 1 seed. We've spent all night talking about the Lakers, but the Spurs have the best record in the Western Conference. They're going to get Parker and Ginobili and Duncan back. They're healthy. They've had an unbelievable regular season. And yet, most people are not really thinking they're going to get to the finals. I think they've got a good shot. They're just a different team from the ones we've seen play in the finals in the past.
I'll say this, you don't win 60 games by accident.
Yeah.
And there's always a plan behind something. And revamping the offense and going more up-tempo and getting big-time effort, you know, from guys like Neal and Hill. You know, it's no secret. Greg Popovich, as Fisher knocks down a 17-footer, it's no secret Greg Popovich gets the maximum effort out of all his players.
How about benches, though? We're seeing a lot of the San Antonio bench tonight, and they look terrific against basically starters for the Lakers.
Yeah, they've been great. Gary Neal rising up for their threes. Oh, they've got so many guys like that. You know, you look down the bench, and you've got Bonner and Hill and, you know, guys who can come in and knock down threes. Even Novak tonight has really contributed. And the way they play, they space the floor so much. They're a tough team to guard.
Kobe can't hit. 7 of 19 to Gasol.
Second shot opportunities here hurting the San Antonio Spurs.
Which you'd expect with this lineup. They've got Splitter and then basically 4 3-point shooters out there. Novak playing the 4, but he's really more of a perimeter player.
Kobe picks up a foul, and that will be number 5 on Kobe. Artesta's got 5, and just ramping up Neal, who Steve has enjoyed tonight. 16 points, 12 have come in this quarter for the San Antonio rookie.
More three-pointers this season than any other bench player in the NBA, over 100. And he's just had a phenomenal season, probably on the all-rookie team when all is said and done.
He's played in Turkey, Spain, Italy. One of college basketball's top scorers when he left Towson. Green over Fisher.
Rough shot there by Danny Green, just checked in. Take a couple dribbles, pump fake.
3 to play. Gasol was 17 and 13. Kobe Bryant. Kobe gets his first field goal since 9 minutes left in the third quarter. That may have iced it right there. Lakers with the lead of 96-88. Kobe has only shot 8 of 20, but his 27 leads everybody tonight.
Well, the Black Mamba, we talked about a sense of urgency. Number 24 understands we need these last 2 games to get the number 2.
Back in Los Angeles, time for the Marines teamwork play of the game. The Spurs bench on display tonight as they rest the big 3 and McDyess.
Well, with no Parker, Ginobili, Duncan, Greg Popovich has found a way to keep this game close, and really has been the production off the bench. There, Bonner knocking down a shot, 33 points from the bench by the San Antonio Spurs, and Blair, who has started, and we saw a little clip of him, 12 and 11 in that starter's role.
Game was tied at 83 with just under 6 to play. Lakers on a 13-5 run here against San Antonio. Splitting with some nice moves. And on Gasol, who claims his 15th rebound.
Splitter could have jumped in and drawn a foul there, but he's a poor free throw shooter. And that's one of the things as a big, when you don't make your free throws, it makes you a little less aggressive around the hoop.
Kobe. Way off on that one, 8 of 21. Chris Quinn, who played at Notre Dame, the best in the Big East when there, began with Miami. The Chicago area, here's Neal. Splitter. Quinn, with a fake on Odom a bit, still couldn't get it to go.
And the Lakers end up winning this game. The work is not done for them. They still have to go up to Sacramento and win there to get that number 2 seed.
And that game is going to have a different feel just because of the circumstances around the Kings.
Yeah, probably the final game ever in Sacramento as Odom gets the floater to go and the foul. But guys, despite the fact that the Lakers are going to win this game, they expended a lot of energy in doing so. Right. When you look at the minutes played, Kobe at 37. You know, Odom at 34, Gasol at 38, and Kobe's going to leave the game now. You know, this is a tired team, and they're going to probably play without Bynum tomorrow night. And they go up and beat the Kings in Sacramento.
27 for Kobe. Second foul on Quinn. Odom has had some nice numbers along his line tonight. He's played 34 minutes, 8 of 16, 20 points, 7 rebounds and 4 assists. Of those 20, Odom has put in 9 here in this fourth quarter. The rifleman, Chuck Person, just caught that pass on the sideline.
I'm surprised he didn't shoot it.
One of the best all-time shooters, though. Took me under his wing when I was a rookie in Indiana, coming off that Rookie of the Year.
He was a technician, wasn't he?
Yes, he
Reggie,
was.
The way he shot that ball. He shot a lot.
Some of the battles he had with Larry Bird early on. Those playoff series between my Pacers and the Riflemen.
You know, that's where right between the eyes came
Yeah,
from.
that's right.
When he was with Minnesota, the Timberwolves, Rifleman right between the eyes.
You know, he's helped Kobe Bryant with his jump shot. Kobe has given him credit for making a couple of adjustments with his hand placement on the ball, particularly with that finger that Kobe has. It's a problem. Odom knocks down the three, but Chuck Person, he's been an excellent coach for LA.
And he was talking defensively to the guys about better communication on the floor.
Well, he's the defensive guru for them and really getting the bigs together. Pau Gasol and Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum talking about we are no longer going to help one another. We're going to front, we're going to three-quarter, and everyone's going to guard their own man. You're not going to look to rotate over as much as early.
Who was your coach when you were with the Pacers, when you were with Chuck Person?
Dr. Phil.
Dr.
Ramsey.
Phil.
Phil was your coach?
You know, I know he's helped Oprah. I know he's got his own show.
Dr. Jack Ramsey.
I was going to ask you, do you
Dr.
think
Phil.
if Jack Ramsey is watching, do you think he would find it ironic that Chuck Person is now the defensive guru for the
Yes,
Lakers?
absolutely. I find it funny.
He didn't guard anybody.
But who knows defense better than a guy who was
Well,
so
that's
geared
right.
offensively,
Maybe.
really knows where the things that bothered him as a shooter. Lakers are going to win their 56th game of the season. They won 57 last year. We began the broadcast by talking about Phil Jackson saying our goal to begin the season was to at least get to 57, and preferably more in the win column as the season was going on. Now they've only got a chance to get to last year's 57. Anderson with a 3.
Tell you what, I want to give a lot of credit to Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs reserves. They really played hard tonight.
Yeah, and they finally started making shots in the fourth
That
quarter.
helped.
Odom, 3. 17 and 17 for Pau Gasol. That'll be it. The 5-game losing streak for Los Angeles is over. Home record of 30 and 11. If they win tomorrow in Sacramento, they will be the number 2 seed. Game is tied with 6 minutes left at 83, and the Spurs fall in Los Angeles without playing Duncan, Parker, or Ginobili. That's the updated look at the Western Conference. Now LA and Dallas, and if, by the way, LA will be tied with Dallas and Oklahoma City at the end of the season, by virtue of the tiebreaker, Lakers automatically become number 2 because they've won the season series with both the Thunder and the Mavs. Denver is at number 5. Portland is at number 6. And now we go to Cheryl Miller.
Lamar, you guys obviously snapped that 5-game skid, but just looking at you and Kobe, you know, at times there would seem to be a noticeable frustration. What didn't you guys like in the first 3 quarters?
I mean, because we got to the point where we have to try hard. And you know what I mean by that, by playing. We're just not going out playing, having fun. And now, whether it's a missed shot or missed defensive assignment, it's a lot on us right now. And playoffs came at a perfect time for us. We needed a little break, recuperate, watch some tape, and just get better.
Well, Brian Shaw, your assistant coach, said that he thought that once you guys found out that San Antonio wasn't playing their top 4 players, that you guys kind of relaxed a little bit. What is it about this team that you guys sometimes feel that you maybe could flip that switch?
Overconfidence, cockiness. You know, we all know as athletes, that's when you find yourself in the most humbling position. Is when you're a little too overconfident, when you're cocky. And it happened tonight, it's been happening the last couple of games. And the middle of the season, beginning of the season, we lost some games that, you know, overconfident and cockiness beat us.
Andrew Bynum goes down in the second quarter, hyperextending that right knee. As a As an injury to your big fella, what kind of mentality does that have, or how does that affect this team's psyche to watch the big fella go down?
The best thing about our team is our depth, and we have guys that are ready to step in. And we want him to get better. We want him to play at 100%. If he can't, then guys like me, Shannon, have to step our game up, have to elevate our performance in order to, carry this championship thing on.
Well, you got a tough opponent tomorrow night up at Sacramento, possibly the last time they'll be playing in Arco Arena. But can you guys win that game tomorrow night, playing like you guys did tonight?
Nah, the energy will overcome us and beat us. We're gonna have to come out and play our A game to put those guys away. They're gonna be really excited and emotional up there.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Odom with 23, Kobe had 27. 6 in double figures for San Antonio, led by the 16 of Neal. I wouldn't want to play the Lakers. Would you, Steve? Huh?
Well, they're still the defending champs,
Yes.
two-time defending champs. And if they're healthy, they're going to be awfully tough.
Reg, they got to win the night they needed.
Well, it was a big win. Kobe, he rose up to the occasion like the Black Mamba normally does.
Guys, we'll see you down the road. For Steve Kerr, Reggie Miller, and Cheryl Miller. Thanking our producer, Tom Heitz, and director, Renardo Lowe. Kevin Harlan saying goodnight. Now to Atlanta.